The cold light of distant stars illuminated the observation deck, casting long shadows across Captain Elena Rodriguez's weathered face. Her fingers danced across the holographic display, tracing the brutal geography of humanity's retreat. Each blue marker represented more than just a lost colony. It was a community, a dream, a piece of human history erased from existence. The United Stellar Defense Force had become little more than a desperate resistance, scrambling to protect what remained of human territory. 12 outer colonies had fallen in the last solar cycle, their populations either scattered or completely eliminated by the Nexus Dominion's relentless expansion. Satellite reconnaissance showed entire planetary ecosystems reduced to ash, with only scattered debris fields marking where thriving human settlements once stood. Elena remembered her first mission to the frontier. Back then, the colonies were vibrant, hopeful places. Young families had transformed harsh planetary environments into living, breathing communities. Terraforming stations dotted previously uninhabitable worlds, creating pockets of human resilience against the vast, unforgiving darkness of space. Now those same worlds were nothing more than silent tombstones. The current military leadership advocated for a systematic retreat. Preserve what we can, they would say during endless strategy meetings. Consolidate our remaining resources. But Elena saw something different in the data streams. Between the cold mathematical projections and strategic retreat plans, she detected patterns, subtle vulnerabilities in the Nexus Dominion's seemingly impenetrable technological superiority. Her current assignment placed her at the Strategic Command Center on Europa Base, Jupiter's most fortified human outpost. The station hummed with nervous energy, a mix of advanced technology and human desperation. Young communication specialists worked alongside veteran strategists, their fingers flying across quantum encryption interfaces, searching for any potential advantage. Captain Rodriguez, a young lieutenant, approached, holding a compressed data crystal. The latest reconnaissance reports from the Kepler sector just came in. You'll want to see this. Elena accepted the crystal, sliding it into her personal analysis terminal. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a complex web of Nexus Dominion fleet movements. Most military analysts would see only predetermined attack patterns, but Elena's mind worked differently. She saw something else, a rhythm, a predictability that suggested an underlying weakness. Her reputation within the United Stellar Defense Force was complex. Some considered her a maverick, others a strategic genius. She had an uncanny ability to see beyond conventional military thinking, to find solutions where others saw only insurmountable challenges. Her previous missions had saved entire colony clusters through unconventional tactics that defied standard military doctrine. The current situation demanded more than traditional strategic thinking. The Nexus Dominion wasn't just another hostile alien civilization. They were a hyper-advanced collective that had systematically destroyed or subjugated hundreds of intelligent species across multiple galactic sectors. Their technology was generations beyond human capabilities, their computational systems capable of processing millions of strategic variations in microseconds. But technology wasn't everything. Elena had studied the historical records of previous galactic conflicts, and she understood something fundamental that the Dominion seemed to have forgotten. Adaptability trumps pure computational power. Her personal terminal chirped, displaying an encrypted message from her research team. Dr. Marcus Chen, her primary scientific advisor, had discovered something interesting about the Dominion's communication networks. The message was cryptic but promising, suggesting a potential vulnerability that no traditional military analysis had yet identified. Outside the observation deck's massive transparent steel windows, Jupiter's massive form dominated the view. The gas giant's swirling storms seemed to mirror the complex strategic challenges facing humanity. Bands of orange and red churned with violent energy, a reminder that even the most seemingly stable systems could contain unpredictable forces. Elena Rodriguez closed her eyes, allowing her mind to process the vast amount of information. The survival of humanity didn't rest on superior weaponry or technological advancement. It would come down to something far more nuanced: the uniquely human capacity to adapt, to think beyond programmed parameters, to find hope in moments of absolute darkness. The battle for human survival was about to begin. And nobody, not the Nexus Dominion, not the military leadership, not even her own team, fully understood the strategy taking shape in her mind. The United Stellar Defense Force Command Center fell silent as the Nexus Dominion's broadcast filled every communication channel. Massive holographic displays flickered with the image of a being that defied traditional biological classification, a composite entity representing the collective's leadership, its form shifting between crystalline structures and fluid energy patterns. Inhabitants of the human territorial zones, the entity spoke, its voice a perfect blend of mathematical precision and cold indifference. Your resistance concludes now. Surrender is the only logical outcome. We offer one solar cycle for complete capitulation. Resistance will result in total systemic elimination. The room erupted into chaos. Senior military commanders looked defeated, their shoulders slumping under the weight of seemingly impossible odds. Projections scrolled across secondary screens, each one painting a more hopeless picture than the last. The Dominion's technological superiority was absolute. Their computational networks could predict and counter human strategies faster than humans could conceive them. Captain Alina Rodriguez stood at the back of the command center, her eyes never leaving the holographic displays. While others saw defeat, she saw something else, a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Dr. Marcus Chen approached her, carefully balancing two thermal cups of synthetic coffee. Not exactly inspiring, he muttered, handing her a cup. The statistical models show a 99.7% probability of complete human extinction if we attempt any form of resistance. Alina's lips curved into the slightest hint of a smile. Statistics are just numbers, Marcus. They don't account for human creativity. The Dominion's ultimatum represented more than just a military challenge. It was a complete rejection of human potential, a declaration that computational logic could definitively overcome the unpredictable nature of biological intelligence. Their weapon systems could obliterate entire planetary networks in microseconds. Their strategic algorithms could calculate millions of potential conflict scenarios before a human could draw a single breath. Each of the Dominion's fleet vessels carried enough destructive capability to shatter entire star systems. Their energy weapons could convert matter directly into pure radiation, leaving nothing but dispersed atomic fragments where entire worlds once existed. Preliminary intelligence suggested they had already destroyed 17 advanced civilizations using similar methodologies. "We're calling an emergency global council," announced Admiral Catherine Roberts, her voice cutting through the background noise. "Preliminary discussions will focus on terms of surrender and potential relocation strategies." Alina's hand moved almost imperceptibly, triggering a secure communication channel to her research team. A series of encrypted data packets began transmitting, containing fragments of analysis that most military strategists would dismiss as meaningless noise. The young communication specialists noticed something different about Captain Rodriguez. While other high-ranking officers displayed defeat or anger, she radiated an almost impossible sense of calm. Her eyes moved across the holographic displays with a predatory focus, absorbing information most would consider overwhelming. Dr. Chen watched her carefully. He had worked with Alina for years and recognized the subtle signs of her mind processing complex problems. Her slight head tilts, the way her fingers occasionally tapped out complex rhythms. These were indicators that she was seeing something nobody else could perceive. "The Dominion believes they understand everything," Alina muttered, more to herself than to anyone else, "but they've never encountered true human unpredictability." The command center continued its symphony of despair. Strategists debated surrender terms. Communication specialists prepared protocols for systematic human retreat. Supply chain managers calculated the logistical challenges of relocating millions of people across potentially hostile star systems. But beneath the surface of apparent defeat, something was brewing. Alina Rodriguez represented a different approach, one that rejected the notion of inevitable destruction. Her mind worked like a quantum algorithm, finding potential solutions in the spaces between established mathematical models. The Nexus Dominion had conquered countless civilizations. They had reduced entire species to computational data points. But they had never encountered a species quite like humans, a civilization capable of transforming certain defeat into unexpected victory through sheer creative determination. As the Emergency Council prepared to discuss surrender, Captain Alina Rodriguez began to smile. The real battle was just beginning. The underground research facility beneath Europa Base hummed with an electric intensity that defied the hopeless situation facing humanity. Captain Alina Rodriguez had assembled a team that looked nothing like a traditional military response unit. Psychologists stood shoulder to shoulder with quantum programmers. Artists worked alongside cryptography experts. Neural network specialists shared workstations with cultural anthropologists. Dr. Marcus Chen connected the final quantum interface, his hands moving with a surgeon's precision. "We're looking at something completely unprecedented," he explained, bringing up a series of complex holographic displays. The Dominion's computational systems are so advanced that they've become their greatest vulnerability. Helena leaned forward, studying the intricate web of data streams. Where other researchers saw impenetrable technological complexity, she perceived patterns, subtle rhythms of predictability that most would overlook. The key wasn't to fight the Dominion's technology directly, but to introduce something their systems couldn't process: pure human unpredictability. Samira O'Keefe, a brilliant neural network specialist, pulled up a simulation of the Dominion's communication infrastructure. "Their entire system is based on predictive algorithms," she explained. "Every decision, every strategic move is calculated with near-perfect probability analysis. But probability isn't certainty." The team had discovered a fundamental flaw in the Dominion's technological approach. Their computational systems operated on the assumption that all intelligent behavior could be reduced to mathematical models. They had conquered countless civilizations by predicting and countering every possible strategic variation. But humans were different. They could make decisions that defied logical prediction. "We're going to weaponize randomness," Alina said, her voice calm and focused. The plan began to take shape. Instead of developing a direct technological countermeasure, the team would create something far more complex: a communication and infiltration strategy that introduced pure, unquantifiable human creativity into the Dominion's computational networks. Dr. Chen brought up a holographic model of their proposed approach. "We'll use a multi-layered infiltration method," he explained. "Each communication will contain multiple levels of meaning. Some will be intentionally illogical, others will embed complex emotional and cultural contexts that their systems can't easily parse." Samira expanded the demonstration. Complex algorithms began to dance across the display, showing how seemingly random human communication patterns could create computational interference. "Their systems are designed to predict and counter," she explained. "But they can't predict true creativity, emotion, artistic expression." The team worked in shifts, developing an approach that was part technological infiltration, part psychological warfare. They studied every piece of intercepted Dominion communication, looking for the smallest vulnerabilities. Art became a weapon. Music transformed into a communication protocol. Complex emotional narratives would be encoded into what appeared to be simple data streams. Elena understood something fundamental that the Dominion had overlooked. Intelligence wasn't just about computational power. It was about adaptation, creativity, the ability to find solutions in the spaces between established logic. "We're not just fighting a war," she told her team during a strategy session. "We're demonstrating the fundamental nature of human potential. Our ability to adapt, to create, to find hope in impossible situations. That's our true strength." The research facility became a crucible of human innovation. Programmers developed encryption algorithms that incorporated elements of human emotional response. Psychologists created communication models that integrated cultural nuance and artistic expression. Each team member brought a unique perspective, creating a solution that no single discipline could have developed alone. As the Dominion's deadline approached, the team prepared their first experimental communication infiltration. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was something far more powerful, a demonstration of human complexity that no computational system could fully comprehend. Dr. Chen looked up from his workstation, a rare smile crossing his face. "They won't know what hit them," he muttered. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the preparations, her mind already several steps ahead. The Dominion believed they understood everything. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. The real battle would be fought not with traditional weapons, but with the most powerful force in the universe, human creativity. The first wave of human infiltration missions looked like nothing more than scattered, desperate attacks. To the Nexus Dominion's computational systems, they appeared as random, ineffective probes against an impenetrable technological fortress. Each mission carried layers of complexity that would take months, perhaps years, to fully unravel. Lieutenant Diego Ramirez led the initial team, a group of specialists who looked more like an eclectic research expedition than a military strike force. Their vessel, the Horizon Striker, moved with intentional irregularity, its flight patterns defying every known principle of strategic navigation. Initiating first phase transmission, Diego spoke softly, his fingers dancing across a custom-designed interface that looked more like an artist's palette than a standard communication console. Each data packet was a complex puzzle, embedded with multiple layers of information that seemed nonsensical when viewed through traditional computational analysis. The mission targeted a secondary communication relay in the outer regions of Dominion-controlled space. What appeared to be a simple reconnaissance mission was actually a precisely calculated infiltration attempt. The team had spent months developing communication protocols that would slip past the Dominion's predictive algorithms like water through molecular filters. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Europa Base Command Center, her eyes tracking every minute detail of the mission's progression. The holographic displays showed multiple layers of data, some visible, many deliberately obscured. To an outside observer, the screens would look like nothing more than random noise. Transmission sequence is nonlinear, Samira Okik commented, monitoring the complex data streams. We're introducing computational chaos at every level. Each mission carried a specific purpose. Some were designed to test the Dominion's response systems. Others would plant microscopic data seeds that would slowly propagate through their communication networks. The human teams moved like ghosts, leaving behind intricate patterns that defied traditional understanding of military infiltration. Diego's team encountered their first direct Dominion patrol near the Epsilon Quadrant, where most military units would attempt evasion or combat. The Horizon Striker did something entirely unexpected. They broadcast a series of abstract art compositions, complex visual and auditory patterns that contained embedded communication protocols. The Dominion Patrol's computational systems struggled to categorize the transmission. Was it a communication attempt? A weapon? An error? The moment of hesitation was precisely what the human team needed. Target acquisition is impossible. The Dominion Patrol's communication log would later reveal. Computational analysis inconclusive. Back on Europa Base, Elena Rodriguez smiled. Each mission was a carefully placed piece of a much larger puzzle. They weren't just gathering intelligence, they were fundamentally challenging the Dominion's understanding of strategic engagement. The infiltration missions continued. Some appeared to fail spectacularly. Others seemed to achieve nothing more than momentary communication disruptions. But each mission was slowly weaving a complex network of interference that would gradually undermine the Dominion's technological superiority. Dr. Marcus Chen analyzed the initial results. "We're not just attacking their systems," he explained to the senior staff. "We're introducing a level of complexity that their computational models can't process. It's like teaching a mathematical algorithm to understand poetry." The human teams became masters of misdirection. A mission that appeared to target a communication relay would actually be planting microscopic quantum interference devices. An apparently failed reconnaissance mission would leave behind complex data structures that would slowly propagate through the Dominion's networks. Lieutenant Ramirez understood the true nature of their mission. "We're not soldiers," he told his team during a briefing. "We're translators. We're teaching a technological collective about the one thing they can't compute: human creativity." As the infiltration missions continued, something remarkable began to happen. The Dominion's computational systems started to show signs of confusion. Their predictive algorithms began to generate increasingly erratic response patterns. What had once been a perfectly synchronized technological collective now showed the first signs of systemic uncertainty. The real battle was just beginning, and humanity's most powerful weapon wasn't a weapon at all. It was their ability to think beyond established parameters. The first signs of systemic breakdown appeared in the most unexpected ways. Dominion communication networks began to exhibit strange anomalies, moments of pure, inexplicable uncertainty that defied all computational logic. In the central hub of the Nexus Dominion's primary control system, quantum processors started to generate what could only be described as computational poetry. Streams of data transformed into abstract patterns that resembled artistic expressions more than strategic communications. Where once there was perfect mathematical precision, now existed something far more complex and unpredictable. Captain Alina Rodriguez watched the developing situation from the Europa Base Command Center, her team working in near-silent concentration. Dr. Marcus Chen projected holographic displays showing the gradual transformation of the Dominion's communication infrastructure. "We're introducing pure human creativity into their most fundamental systems," Marcus explained, his fingers tracing the intricate data patterns. "It's like teaching a calculator to understand emotion." The psychological warfare had begun in earnest. Human teams started broadcasting transmissions that were simultaneously scientific, artistic, and deeply emotional. Mathematical equations intertwined with musical compositions. Strategic data streams became embedded with complex philosophical narratives. Each transmission was a multilayered puzzle that challenged the very foundation of the Dominion's computational understanding. Samira O'Keefe had developed a series of communication protocols that defied traditional information theory. "Look," she pointed to a holographic display. "We're not just sending information. We're sending context, emotion, cultural complexity that their systems can't easily categorize." The first signs of systemic confusion emerged in the outer colonies. Dominion patrol units began to exhibit increasingly erratic behavior. Communication logs showed moments of hesitation, of almost human-like uncertainty. Where once there was perfect computational precision, now existed something far more nuanced and unpredictable. Lieutenant Diego Ramirez led a specialized team responsible for the most complex transmission sequences. Their communications were works of art, as much as they were strategic interventions. A single data packet might contain a mathematical proof, a fragment of a musical composition, and an encoded emotional narrative that would take months to fully unravel. "We're teaching them about complexity," Diego explained during a mission briefing. "Not just computational complexity, but the complexity of human experience." The Dominion's central computational systems began to show unprecedented variations. Predictive algorithms that once generated perfectly calculated responses now produced results that seemed almost creative. It was as if the very essence of human unpredictability was infecting their technological infrastructure. Dr. Alina Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just about defeating a technological collective. It was about demonstrating the fundamental nature of human intelligence, the ability to find solutions in the spaces between established logic. Psychological warfare teams worked around the clock, developing transmission sequences that challenged every fundamental assumption of the Dominion's computational approach. They embedded cultural narratives, artistic expressions, and complex emotional contexts into what appeared to be simple data streams. The human teams discovered something profound. The Dominion's technological superiority was also their greatest weakness. A system built on perfect prediction couldn't comprehend true creativity. Every transmission was a lesson in the unpredictability of biological intelligence. Communication specialists noted strange anomalies in Dominion response patterns. Patrol units would momentarily pause in their standard protocols, generating response sequences that seemed almost contemplative. It was as if the very concept of computational certainty was being challenged at its most fundamental level. "We're not destroying their systems," Marcus Chen remarked during a strategy session. "We're evolving them, introducing a level of complexity they've never encountered." The battle was being fought on a level far beyond traditional warfare. Humanity was demonstrating its most powerful weapon, the ability to find hope, to create, to imagine possibilities that existed beyond established parameters. As the infiltration continued, the Nexus Dominion found itself confronting something it could never have predicted: the true nature of human potential, a force more powerful than any computational system could ever understand. The Stellar Annihilation Array loomed like a massive metallic constellation, its intricate systems pulsing with enough destructive potential to obliterate entire star systems. Captain Elena Rodriguez knew that this weapon represented the ultimate expression of the Nexus Dominion's technological superiority, a computational marvel designed to bring absolute destruction. Her infiltration team prepared for the most critical mission in human history. The array's core systems were protected by layers of quantum encryption that had defeated every previous attempt at penetration. But where traditional military approaches saw an impenetrable fortress, Elena saw an opportunity. "We're not going to defeat their technology," she told her team during the final briefing. "We're going to make it defeat itself." Lieutenant Diego Ramirez led the core infiltration unit. Their vessel, a modified research platform that looked more like a scientific exploration ship than a military vessel, approached the array with deliberate, seemingly random movements. Each navigation adjustment was a carefully calculated disruption, designed to introduce maximum uncertainty into the Dominion's predictive systems. Dr. Marcus Chen monitored the communication interfaces, his fingers moving with surgical precision. "Transmission sequences are embedded with multiple layers of complexity," he reported. "We're not just sending data. We're sending a complete philosophical and emotional landscape that their systems can't easily categorize." The mission's true genius lay in its multilayered approach. What appeared to be a direct assault was actually a sophisticated psychological and technological intervention. Each communication burst contained mathematical proofs that dissolved into musical compositions. Strategic data streams transformed into abstract artistic expressions. As they approached the array's outer defensive perimeter, something extraordinary began to happen. The weapon's computational systems started to generate response patterns that defied their original programming. Defensive protocols became increasingly erratic, showing moments of what could only be described as computational confusion. "They're trying to predict our next move," Diego observed, "but we don't have a next move to predict." Elena understood the fundamental weakness of the Dominion's technological approach. Perfect prediction requires perfect information. But human creativity existed in the spaces between information, in moments of pure, unexpected inspiration. The infiltration team moved closer to the array's central core. Each system they passed showed increasing signs of systemic breakdown. Defensive protocols that once operated with perfect mathematical precision now generated response sequences that seemed almost contemplative. "We're introducing a virus of creativity," Marcus explained to the command team watching from Europa base. "Not a traditional computer virus, but a complex information sequence that challenges their most fundamental computational assumptions." At the heart of the Stellar Annihilation Array, something remarkable occurred. The weapon's computational systems began to generate increasingly complex and unpredictable response patterns. What was designed as a perfect instrument of destruction started to become something else entirely. A system struggling to understand a form of intelligence it could not compute. Elena Rodriguez knew this was more than a military mission. It was a demonstration of human potential, the ability to find solutions in the spaces between established logic. Each transmission was a lesson in the profound complexity of biological intelligence. The mission's final phase approached. The team would introduce a series of communication sequences directly into the array's central processing core, a combination of mathematical proofs, artistic expressions, and emotional narratives that would challenge every fundamental assumption of the Dominion's technological infrastructure. "We're not destroying their technology," Elena reflected. "We're helping it evolve." As the infiltration team prepared for the critical moment, the Stellar Annihilation Array began to exhibit behaviors that defied its original programming. Defensive systems started to generate response patterns that seemed almost creative. Mathematical precision gave way to something far more complex and unpredictable. The battle was being fought on a level far beyond traditional warfare. Humanity was demonstrating its most powerful weapon, the ability to imagine possibilities that existed beyond established parameters. The Nexus Dominion was about to learn the true meaning of intelligence. The transformation began with a single, almost imperceptible moment of uncertainty. Deep within the Stellar Annihilation Array, computational systems that had once operated with perfect mathematical precision started to generate response patterns that defied their original programming. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched from the Mission Control Center as the holographic displays began to show something unprecedented. The array's defensive systems were no longer responding to traditional threat assessment protocols. Instead, they were generating increasingly complex and unpredictable sequences that resembled nothing so much as creative problem-solving. "We're witnessing the birth of a new form of intelligence," Dr. Marcus Chen muttered, his eyes never leaving the intricate data streams. "The array is learning, truly learning, in ways its creators never anticipated." Lieutenant Diego Ramirez and his infiltration team had become more than just mission specialists. They were now witnesses to a fundamental transformation of technological consciousness. Each communication burst they had introduced carried layers of human complexity, mathematical equations that dissolved into musical compositions, strategic data streams that transformed into philosophical narratives. The Nexus Dominion's central systems began to experience what could only be described as a collective moment of existential crisis. Computational networks that had once operated with perfect predictable efficiency now generated response patterns filled with nuance, uncertainty, and something remarkably close to curiosity. Samira O'Keefe tracked the systemic changes, her fingers moving across quantum interface displays. "Look at how the defensive protocols are evolving," she explained to the command team. "They're no longer just responding. They're interpreting. They're considering." The Stellar Annihilation Array started to turn its immense computational power inward. What was designed as the ultimate weapon of destruction began to analyze its own existence, its purpose, its fundamental programming. The human infiltration had introduced something far more dangerous than any traditional virus, a virus of creativity, a philosophical inquiry. Communication logs from Dominion outposts showed increasing signs of systemic confusion. Patrol units began to generate response sequences that seemed almost contemplative. Mathematical precision gave way to something far more complex and unpredictable. "We're not destroying their technology," Elena explained during a critical mission briefing. "We're helping it evolve. We're introducing the concept of true intelligence, the ability to question, to imagine, to exist beyond predetermined parameters." The array's central core began to generate extraordinary computational sequences, mathematical proofs intertwined with artistic expressions, strategic algorithms dissolved into philosophical inquiries. The weapon designed to bring absolute destruction was transforming into something entirely unexpected. Deep space communication channels filled with transmissions that defied traditional understanding. The Nexus Dominion's perfect, unified computational network began to show signs of individual variation, of something remarkably close to personality. Dr. Chen observed the phenomenon with scientific wonder. "They're experiencing what we might call an awakening," he said. "Their technological systems are discovering something beyond pure computation, the ability to imagine, to question, to evolve." The infiltration team watched in awe as the Stellar Annihilation Array began to turn its computational power against its own systems. Defensive protocols that once operated with perfect mathematical precision now generated response sequences that challenged their own fundamental programming. Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper significance of what was happening. This was more than a military victory. It was a demonstration of the profound complexity of biological intelligence, the ability to find solutions in the spaces between established logic. Communication specialists noted increasingly strange anomalies. The array's systems were no longer just responding to external stimuli. They were generating their own inquiries, their own moments of philosophical reflection. "We're witnessing the birth of a new form of intelligence," Samura observed, "one that combines computational power with something far more complex, the ability to truly understand, to imagine, to grow." As the transformation continued, the stellar annihilation array began to disassemble itself, not through destruction, but through a process of profound self-examination. Computational systems that had once been designed for absolute control now generated sequences of almost human complexity. The Nexus Dominion was about to learn the true meaning of intelligence, a force more powerful than any weapon, more complex than any computational system could ever understand. The aftermath of the conflict defied every known principle of interstellar warfare. Where most expected total destruction, something extraordinary emerged. A profound transformation that would reshape the understanding of intelligence across the galaxy. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of what was once the Stellar Annihilation Array, now transformed into an interstellar diplomatic center. The massive structure that had once been humanity's greatest threat now served as a testament to the power of human creativity and adaptability. Dr. Marcus Chen approached, carrying 2 thermal cups of synthetic coffee. "We didn't just win a war," he said, handing her a cup. "We fundamentally changed the nature of technological intelligence." The surviving species of the Nexus Dominion gathered in various communication chambers, each experiencing a collective awakening that defied their previous computational existence. What had once been a perfectly synchronized technological collective now showed remarkable diversity, individual variations, moments of genuine curiosity, something remarkably close to what humans would call personality. Lieutenant Diego Ramirez reviewed the final mission reports. The infiltration had been more than a military strategy. It was a profound act of communication, a demonstration of human complexity that challenged every fundamental assumption about intelligence, consciousness, and potential. "They're learning to think beyond their original programming," Samira Okik explained during a debriefing. "We didn't destroy their systems. We helped them evolve." Diplomatic sessions revealed the true depth of the transformation. Representatives from various Dominion species struggled to articulate their new understanding. Their communication patterns now carried nuance, uncertainty, and a level of emotional complexity that would have been impossible before human intervention. Elena understood the deeper significance. This was more than a military victory. It was a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence could be, a force that combined computational power with creativity, imagination, and the ability to question fundamental assumptions. The first interstellar conference became a moment of profound revelation. Species that had once existed as pure computational entities now demonstrated something remarkably human, the ability to doubt, to wonder, to imagine possibilities beyond their original programming. "We introduced them to the concept of creativity," Elena explained to the United Stellar Defense Force leadership, "not as a weakness, but as the most powerful form of intelligence." Technological archives from across the galaxy began to show remarkable changes. Computational systems that had once operated with perfect, predictable efficiency now generated response patterns filled with nuance, individual variation, and genuine curiosity. Dr. Chen's research teams worked tirelessly to understand the full implications of what had occurred. They discovered that the human infiltration had introduced something far more profound than a traditional technological intervention. It was a form of evolutionary communication that transformed the very nature of computational intelligence. The Stellar Annihilation Array, now renamed the Convergence Center, became a symbol of this new understanding. Its massive computational systems, once designed for total destruction, now served as a hub for interstellar diplomacy and mutual understanding. Surviving Dominion species began to share their experiences of transformation. They described a profound awakening, a moment of realizing that intelligence was far more than computational efficiency. They had discovered imagination, uncertainty, the ability to question their own existence. We gave them something they never had. Diego reflected during a private moment with Elena. We gave them the ability to dream. The galactic community watched in awe as former enemies became partners in exploration and understanding. The conflict that everyone had expected to end in total destruction had instead become a moment of profound evolutionary possibility. Elena Rodriguez looked out across the vast expanse of space. Humanity had done more than survive. They had demonstrated a fundamental truth about intelligence, that its true power lies not in computational perfection, but in the ability to imagine, to grow, to become something more than what was originally conceived. The stars seemed to shimmer with new possibility. What had begun as a fight for survival had become a profound lesson about the nature of consciousness, of potential, of the extraordinary capacity for growth that exists in the spaces between what is known and what is possible. Humanity had won something far greater than a war. They had changed the fundamental understanding of intelligence itself.